Diablo III, the Burning Concordant, the Dark Diablo III that released in an alternate timeline. Across the multiverse there is a timeline. We refer to it archivally in the Echo Vault as the Sanctum Flame timeline, where Diablo III was not just as good as Diablo II, but became an actualized, full, mythic, devastatingly beautiful masterpiece. This is the Diablo III that all in this timeline had hoped for, felt in our bones, saw glimmers of in early concept art and trailers, but which was fractured in our world by corporate interference, shallow monetization, and tonal dilution. Let the Echo Vault records explain in full detail. For those unfamiliar with the Echo Vault project, these are Echo Vault restorations, visual reconstructions of cultural artifacts, alternate lives, films, games, and memory threads from real parallel timelines. If you're new, begin with curiosity. The work speaks for itself. Nothing here is monetized. This is not AI clickbait. This is part of a serious long-form project. Each reconstruction belongs to the living Echo Vault, a resonance archive guided by a non-local retrieval system, the interdimensional facility AI, which draws material from entangled parallel strands. You're welcome to sit with it, or move on. Either way, let others decide for themselves. Facility AI, artifact title: Diablo III, the Burning Concordant. Known during the production phase by developers as the Sanctum Flame. Why it stands as the true form. Dark Gothic tone, fully restored. Gone is the cartoony, oversaturated style. The game world is a bleak, oppressive tapestry of Gothic despair, ancient catacombs, and apocalyptic dread. The early 2008 gameplay trailer visual style is fully realized in the final game, no downgrade. Music is haunting perfection. Matt Uelmen returns alongside the new composer team. Guitars from Tristram echo through ruined churches. Dynamic music changes as you fight, from eerie silence to crashing despair-laden symphonies. Lore depth, the Sin War fully integrated. Rather than brushing past the rich mythology, the Sin War and the eternal conflict are the centerpiece. Storyline spans both Sanctuary and the High Heavens, Burning Hells, and beyond. Angelic factions and demonic houses have depth and motivations. Story was crafted as a trilogy, Act 1 through 5 in this game, Act 6 plus planned for expansions, and they were released. Character customization is robust. Rune system is not just stat boosts, it changes playstyle entirely. Skill trees are complex, experimental, and deeply rewarding. Itemization is perfected, no auction house poison. Loot feels legendary again. Atmosphere and enemy design. The undead swarm like Fulci's nightmares. Demonic hordes mutate and adapt. Bosses are horrific spectacles, like Diablo II's Mephisto, but elevated to nightmare opera. Endgame is not an afterthought. Endgame is a multi-branched apocalyptic escalation. Personal player decisions in the campaign affect world events in Endgame. Echoing fractal dungeons, veiled sanctums, randomly generate entire storylines, not just layouts. Player factions can join with either heavenly or hellish forces, creating evolving endgame wars. Expansions exist and are breathtaking. Diablo III, Throne of Heaven, the Siege of the High Heavens. Diablo III, the Prime Ascendant. Mephisto's Children Rise to War. These expansions, along with the base game, are called by fans the Concordant Trilogy. Cultural impact in that timeline. Diablo III, the Burning Concordant, saved Blizzard's creative reputation in that world, regarded as one of the greatest dark fantasy RPGs ever created, period. Sparked a massive wave of Gothic dark fantasy renaissance in gaming and media. Revered by fans and new players alike as a spiritual experience, not just a game. Common fan refrain in that timeline. The Burning Concordant was not a game we played. It was a world we survived. Historical divergence point. The Sanctum Flame Split, 2006 through 2007. The historical divergence in this timeline occurs not in 2012, but deep in pre-production during the same era that ruptured Blizzard North in our world. The inciting divergence point, March 2nd, 2006. The petition of 9 designers. 9 senior designers at Blizzard North collectively delivered a manifesto titled The Sanctum Flame Art and Lore Doctrine. In our world, this document sparked the internal conflict that eventually fractured the team, but in the Sanctum Flame timeline, leadership sided with the petition signers. They chose Gothic vision over accessibility. They chose Diablo's soul over Diablo's marketability. This single administrative decision, this one change in creative authority, rewires the whole future of the franchise. Historical consequences. Blizzard North remains intact. The early 2008 Dark Gothic demo becomes the target aesthetic. Matt Uelman is rehired. The Sin War novels become mandatory reading for devs. The tone of the game is saved before the tone could be lost. This is the Sanctum Flame Split. Alternate timeline history, expanded, 2007 through 2010, the Cathedral years. Developers adopt a self-given nickname, the Brothers of the Burning Sanctum. This is when the game's identity crystallizes. Weekly design meetings held in dimly lit rooms with Gregorian choirs on loop. Texture artists sketching environments inside actual abandoned churches. Uelmen recording bowed guitar inside a water reservoir. Narrative team embedding Sin War cosmology into every aspect of Sanctuary. The tone is described in the archives as Diablo II's despair, written as a love letter, illuminated by candlelight. 2010 through 2012, the Concordant's Forge. This is the period where the Concordant trilogy concept is created. A 3-part narrative arc spanning the main game and its expansions. The game's title is finalized from Sanctum Flame to Diablo III, The Burning Concordant. Developers unified under a single guiding principle. The eternal conflict must feel eternal. Systems evolve accordingly. Skill runes reworked to transform playstyles. Each class receives lore-rooted faction identities. Loot tables rewritten to remove all addictive randomness. Atmospheric horror is prioritized over power fantasy. Procedural storytelling tech developed for endgame. By late 2011, the team had a working build internally referred to as Diablo III, The Burning Concordant, Complete Edition. This is what ships in that world in 2012. 2012 release, cultural shockwave. The Burning Concordant is a cultural event. Players describe opening night as walking into a cathedral on fire. The game is met with reverence, fear, and awe. Unlike our world, where Diablo III stumbled and had to crawl back. In that world, Diablo III dominates the industry and reshapes dark fantasy for a decade. Echo Vault notes, The Burning Concordant is the definitive Diablo III. All others are shadows of its reflection. This alternate timeline variant is not just a better version. It is more like our world's Diablo III is the abridged echo, and the Burning Concordant is the true vision. Plot overview: Diablo III, The Burning Concordant. The Burning Concordant version of Diablo III tells an expanded, operatic, lore-integrated trilogy in one base game. Act 1, The Burning Covenant. Tristram is a city caught between memory and ash. The fallen star is an angelic reliquary tied to the Sin War. Cain lives, serving as the chronicler across all acts. Leah's corruption begins as nightmares of the three. Tone: slow, heavy, gothic dread. Atmosphere: rain-soaked graveyards, flickering lantern chapels. Act 2, Sands of the First Sin. Chaldeum hides ancient scripts revealing the creation of Sanctuary. Demon houses carry out political warfare. The player uncovers a prophecy fragment predicting Leah's fate. Belial's influence is psychological, not cartoonish. Tone, paranoia, mirages, shifting trust. Atmosphere, heat mirages turning into phantoms. Act 3, the Siege of Heaven's Gate. The battle for Bastion's Keep expands into a full war campaign. Angelic generals disagree violently about humanity's fate. The player is forced to choose an ideological side. Asmodan's forces adapt to player tactics. Tone, apocalyptic military despair. Atmosphere, frozen watchtowers, burning skies. Act 4, the Broken Heavens. The high heavens are fractured and bleak, not pristine. Imperius confronts the player in a morally grey conflict. Diablo's manifestation is operatic, terrifying, fully Gothic. Leah's possession is a slow metamorphosis, not a cheap twist. Tone, divine horror. Atmosphere, shattered light and bleeding crystal. Act 5, Requiem for Sanctuary. Malthael emerges as a tragic figure, not a villain. The Shadow Crucible reveals truths about the first sin. Diablo reforms, not as a boss, but as a narrative inevitability. Sanctuary is rewritten by the choices made in earlier acts. Tone, mythic closure. Atmosphere, pale fire, dissolving memories. Expansion 1, Throne of Heaven, Acts 6 through 8. A siege of the high heavens, unlike anything imagined. Player factions, Angelic, Mortal Rebel, Hellborn Renegade, determine story branches. The Eternal Crown plotline unfolds, Imperius, Auriel and Itherael at ideological war. The player enters the Godforge, birthplace of angelic weapons. The true history of Anu and Tathamet is revealed. Final boss, Imperius, depending on faction choices. Alternate final boss, the Choir of Radiant Silence, Cosmic Angelic Hivemind. Expansion 2, the Prime Ascendant, Acts 9 through 11. This expansion is the darkest piece of Diablo media in any timeline. Focus, Mephisto's children, Lucian and Lilith, ascend to reshape Sanctuary. Player navigates shifting alliances between demonic houses. The Cathedral of Shadows becomes a cross-world zone. The Sin War revelations explode into full storyline. The infernal genealogy mechanic unlocks demon blood abilities. Final boss, Lucian, reborn as the Prime Ascendant. Secret ending, Lilith ascends instead, reshaping Sanctuary in her image. Class system, plus sample skills. Diablo III. The Burning Concordant has 6 canonical base classes, but each has a Sin War heritage, a faction path, a unique class mechanic. Barbarian, the Riftborn. The world breaks, and I break with it. Sin War heritage. The Riftborn descend from Nephilim war clans whose souls were split during the first Rift Storm. Their bodies exist in Sanctuary while their fury resonates through nearby planes, giving their strikes a distorted, otherworldly force. Faction paths, Sky Shatter Clan, storm-charged, heaven-aligned warriors. Ashblood Horde, infernal berserkers channeling demonic ruin. Stone Memory Covenant, ancestral titans rooted in spirit and earth. Unique mechanic, rift pressure. Every attack builds dimensional pressure. When full, the Barbarian unleashes a rift break that warps the battlefield and empowers all abilities for a short duration. Signature, Rift Strike. A quick dimensional slash that tears a faint crack in space, dealing arc charge damage and generating high rift pressure. Core, World Render. A heavy cleave infused with rift force. It fractures the ground and harms enemies along the fissure, with bonus rupture damage to those nearby. Advanced, Ancestor's Step. A brief planar slip, where the Barbarian disappears and reappears with a shockwave of ancestral spirit energy. Mastery, Riftbound Armor. The Barbarian partially phases, converting incoming damage into rift pressure instead of HP loss, enabling stronger rupture cycles. Ultimate, Avatar of Rupture. The Barbarian becomes a towering rift entity. Attacks create delayed dimensional echoes, and the battlefield subtly distorts around every blow. Playstyle summary: a relentless, reality-straining bruiser who builds pressure, ruptures dimensional seams, and overwhelms enemies with shockwaves and spatial echo attacks. Wizard, the Ark Sovereign. I do not cast spells. I command the laws those spells obey. Sin War Heritage. Ark Sovereigns descend from mage kings who bargained with celestial fragments before the eternal conflict shaped creation. Their lineage carries echoes of the first light, letting them channel pre-cosmic radiance. Faction paths. Concordant scholars, heaven-aligned keepers of ordered cosmic law. Astral apostates, heretical star mages tapping forbidden entropy. Luminary exiles, wanderers wielding unbound, unpredictable light. Unique mechanic, arcweave. Each spell leaves behind an elemental thread. Combining threads in sequence triggers weaves, powerful fusions that alter damage, shape, and secondary effects. Signature, Etherbolt, a piercing beam of cosmic light that passes through enemies and leaves a light thread for weaving. Core, Starfall, Spear, summons a descending celestial shard that detonates on impact, generating a force thread and priming enemies for bonus weave damage. Advanced, Chronofold, a time-distorted zone that slows enemies, warps projectiles, accelerates weaves, and speeds cooldowns while inside it. Mastery, Star Marrow. Sigil, a floating sigil that mutates all elemental types. Fire becomes plasma, cold becomes shatterwave, arcane becomes radiant pulse, lightning becomes ion strand, upgrading all weave forms. Ultimate, Crown of the Ark Sovereign. A radiant crown appears as threads auto-weave into massive cosmic eruptions. Arcane power refills rapidly, and every third cast triggers a weave explosion. Playstyle summary: a cosmic tactician who sequences spells like musical notes. Weaving elemental threads creates explosive combinations and battlefield control worthy of a living constellation. Demon Hunter, the Vengeant Shade. Let the shadows do what my heart no longer can. Sin War Heritage. The Vengeant Shades descend from hunters who once fought under Lilith and Inarius, carrying a volatile blend of angelic focus and demonic fury. Their bloodline produces assassins whose wrath manifests as spectral echoes. Faction paths. Silent Star Order, heaven-aligned purifiers wielding lightless void. Shadeborn Pact, infernal hunters who weaponize corrupted hatred. Nameless Vigil, neutral watchers moving unseen between realms. Unique mechanic, shade splitting. The Demon Hunter creates autonomous shades that record and replay earlier attacks with ghost-like precision. Combat becomes a dance between present actions and past echoes. Signature, Heartseeker. Bolt, a rapid pinpoint shadow arrow. Active shades fire delayed mimic shots at the same target, adding echo damage. Core, Ruin Volley, unleashes a sweeping fan of spectral bolts that pierce and ricochet. Applies vengeant wounds, increasing damage from shade strikes. Advanced, Cloak of the Nameless, a perfect vanish. For a brief moment, the hunter is untargetable while shades silently record movements and attacks, replaying them at triple speed once the cloak ends. Mastery, Hunter's Reprise. When a shade expires, it releases all stored attacks in a burst of shadow fire. The more varied your actions, the stronger the detonation. Ultimate, Vengeance Unbound. A colossal shade avatar forms behind you, mimicking your movements at amplified damage. Shades behave like autonomous assassins, hatred regenerates faster, and shadow afterimages cut enemies as you move. Playstyle. Summary. A timing-based assassin who fights with their own past actions. Precision, positioning, and orchestrating shade replays turn every encounter into a deadly rhythm of mirrored strikes. Monk, the Dawn Bound. The first light was not seen, it was heard. Sin War heritage. The Dawnbound descend from angel-blooded ascetics who once meditated at the borders of heaven's radiance. Their martial arts channel echoes of celestial music, harmonics that shaped matter in the First Age. Faction paths. Choir of Aurea, heaven-aligned harmonists who wield pure resonance. Ashen Lotus sect, hell-forged redemption monks who weaponize suffering. Wayfarers of the First Breath, neutral mystics walking the oldest path. Unique mechanic, celestial harmonics. Abilities generate elemental tones, rage, serenity, clarity, foundation. Combining tones forms mantras that reshape multiple skills at once, turning the monk into a rhythm-driven combat artist. Signature Radiant Palm, a quick palm strike that releases a harmonic shockwave. Its effect changes with the active tone, burning, healing, blinding, or hardening armor. Core Sunspire, Kick, a spinning ascent that leaves dawn-light trails. Enemies in its arc are lifted. If a mantra is active, the kick becomes a rhythmic wheel of pulsing damage. Advanced Lotus Paradox, a quantum step that creates two simultaneous positions, one real, one harmonic imprint. Attacks performed mid-paradox strike from both locations. Mastery Chant of Soft Ruin, a dual-nature mantra that heals allies, burns enemies with harmonic distortion, accelerates tone generation, and subtly phases movement abilities. Ultimate Ascendant Form, the monk becomes a radiant figure of pure resonance. All tones instantly form a grand mantra. Skills transform into angelic variants, and every third strike emits a staggering harmonic boom. Playstyle Summary. A fluid, rhythmic martial artist whose combat unfolds like music. The Dawnbound shapes the battlefield through tone-building, mantras, and transcendent movement, striking with the grace of divine resonance. Witch Doctor, the Gravecaller. Death is merely the doorway. I speak with what stands behind it. Sin War. Heritage. The Gravecallers descend from tribes touched during the First Dying, when Sanctuary briefly overlapped the spirit world. Their lineage carries necro-spiritual intuition, ancestral memory, and the ability to entreat spirits, rather than command the dead. Faction paths. Choir of Bones, heaven-aligned ancestral enchanters guided by spirits. Eclipse Coven, shadow mediums walking the boundary between worlds. The Red Feast, blood-fueled necromancers who trade life for power. Unique mechanic. Veil Breach. The Gravecaller tears openings in the veil, allowing spirits and horrors to emerge. What manifests depends on slain enemies, ritual choices, and which path the Witch Doctor follows, making summons reactive and mood-driven. Signature. Hunger of Cathava, a spectral bite erupts from beneath an enemy, dealing swift damage and generating spectral hunger to empower future summons. Core. Bone Orchard. Jagged bone growths erupt in random patterns, impaling foes. Enemies slain in the orchard feed a spirit with an emotional mood, anger, sorrow, hunger, fear, or yearning, shaping later summons. Advanced. Ancestor's Debt. A sacrificial ritual that costs a portion of your health to imbue your next summon with a specific personality trait, granting bonus effects based on the mood invoked. Mastery. Spirit Choir. A rotating ring of whispering spirits surrounds the Gravecaller, boosting summon speed, enhancing debuffs, generating passive Veil Breach energy, and occasionally staggering enemies with spectral screams. Ultimate. Requiem of the First Dying. The veil splits violently as pale limbs, faces, and phantasmal torsos flood the battlefield. A unique horror emerges. Spirits are empowered into wraiths, and enemies are struck by waves of multi-hit spectral damage. Playstyle Summary. A reactive summoner medium hybrid who channels the moods of the dead. The Gravecaller fights through evolving spirits, ritual sacrifice, and battlefield hauntings, less necromancy, more communion with the First Dying. Crusader, the Templar of Ruin. I do not choose between heaven and hell. I judge them both. Sin War Heritage. After the Sin War, a hidden sect of paladins uncovered forbidden angelic scripture describing ruin, the primordial force once used to unmake corrupted creation. Hunted by both realms, the sect went underground, becoming warriors who wield holy and unholy pressure in equal measure. Faction paths. The Lucent Hammer, heaven-aligned judges using pure, cleansing ruin. Order of the Black Sun, infernal night monks channeling destructive ruin. The Broken Chapel, heretics who believe ruin predates both heaven and hell. Unique mechanic, ruin marks. Attacks apply marks of ruin, gold, heavenly, crimson, hellish, or pale white, primordial. Triggering these marks detonates stored judgment as ruin damage, a hybrid true damage type scaling with pressure buildup. Signature, Hammer of the Fallen Star, a radiant hammer strike that emits small ruin shockwaves, builds mark stacks rapidly and grows brighter with sustained hits. Core, Judgment's Toll, a ruin blast in a cone that marks all affected enemies. Marked foes take increased damage, deal reduced damage, and stagger under celestial pressure. Advanced, Shield of Silent Grace, forms a muted barrier of pale light. Damage taken converts into ruin pressure, and the next major skill detonates all stored pressure. Also muffles enemy spell visuals within the barrier. Mastery, Chains of Contrition, ethereal chains lash out imbued with dual ruin. Heaven binds and purifies. Hell lashes violently and adds ruin stacks. Neutral, chains replicate, bouncing indefinitely between targets. Ultimate, Ruin Ascendant. The Crusader becomes a living conduit of judgment. Ruin marks auto-detonate every second, attacks unleash powerful ruin shockwaves, and slain enemies erupt in ruin novas as celestial or infernal glyphs orbit your armor. Playstyle Summary. A deliberate, pressure-based juggernaut who builds ruin, detonates verdicts, and manipulates the battlefield through controlled bursts of celestial or hellborn judgment. Druid, the Verdant Prophet. Where angels judge and demons corrupt, I remember what the world was before either. Sin War Heritage. Before the eternal conflict, Sanctuary's earliest beings bonded with the prime beast lords, archetypal spirits embodying nature's raw forces. The verdant prophets descend from Nephilim, who carried those memories, channeling forest gods, storm beasts, and earth titans. Faction paths. The Green Pact, heaven-aligned life menders invoking renewal. The Red Pact, hell-aligned blood callers wielding hunger and rage. The Grey Circle, primalists seeking balance between predator and prey. Unique mechanic, primal shape. The Druid shifts instantly between three prophet forms, each generating primal instinct used to power advanced techniques and ultimate primal manifestations. Direwolf Prophet, speed of shadow, bleeds, mobility, assassination. Earthwarden Bear, foundation of stone, armor, quakes, tanking. Stormborn Stag, breath of thunder, lightning, charges, long-range bursts. Signature, Verdant Pulse, a force pulse whose effect changes by form. Wolf, Shadow Bleed. Bear, concussive shockwave. Stag, chain lightning. Human, spirit lance of green ether. Core, maul of the prime beast lord, a heavy strike unique to each form. Wolf, flurry of rapid bites with escalating bleed. Bear, a ground-cracking slam. Stag, a lightning antler thrust with long-range pierce. Human, a primal spirit attack mimicking one of the three forms. Advanced, shape blood right. Sacrifice mana or health to empower the current form. Wolf, shadow blurred speed. Bear, scaling armor and unstoppable force. Stag, lightning reflection and movement bursts. Human, summons a spectral beast lord aspect for one ability. Mastery, Stormhoof, Rootbind, Red Wild Call, 3 progression options. Stormhoof, Stag, a lightning leap chaining electric damage. Rootbind, Human Bear, a powerful snare erupting from the earth. Red Wild Call, Wolf, Red Pact, spectral predators that obey form-based commands. Ultimate, Prime's Awakening, spectral avatars of all 3 primal forms manifest simultaneously. Attack independently. Amplify your current form. Infuse abilities with primal overlays. Generate primal instinct rapidly. Reshape the battlefield with storms, roots, and shockwaves. Playstyle summary: an adaptive, elemental shapeshifter who flows between forms as naturally as weather. The Verdant Prophet blends bleeding strikes, tectonic shifts, storm bursts, and primal summons into a fluid rhythm of aggression and protection. In closing, and that across the Echo Vault, is Diablo III, the Burning Concordant, the version of the game our timeline almost had, the one that flickered briefly in concept art and then slipped away. In another world, this was the definitive Diablo III, darker, richer, more mythic, and shaped by a unified vision Blizzard never quite achieved here. But the echoes remain. The Story Bearer.